Hey, everybody, welcome to our first ever podcast. I'm Diana Andes,
And I'm Lila Kaplan.
and thank you so much for joining us. This has just been something that Lila and I have been talking about for a while, and I'm just excited that we're here and doing our first podcast and just kicking it off. So, I figured where we could start is how do we know each other? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we go way back to the college years. So, me and Diana went to Rutgers University and we were part of the same sorority. And
Yeah.
Diana was the almighty president of the sorority and basically helped to pledge me into the sorority.
Yeah. That was like 20 years ago, believe it. I shouldn't say 20, like, we don't date ourselves, but it was a while ago. And it's just cool because I think it's nice to like to be able to reconnect with old friends. And I think we reconnected because I think it's over real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I saw you were doing all this investment stuff like Airbnb and launching all these projects, and that's something like I always wanted to do. So I guess we just connected over that, and then you just got into the retail side of real estate, which I was in. So it was just really great
That's
exchange of information. But we wanted to kind of just do this podcast because there's so much information that Lila knows and then I want to learn, and I think there's an audience out there who wants to know these things too. So
And
I'm
there's so
exhausted.
much that you know as well that I certainly don't. So I feel like we definitely complement each other quite well. And I'm learning a lot from you, Diana, as well as, providing some value to you in your journey in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start by like, how many properties do you actually own? Want to share?
So right, yeah, no, not a problem. So right now I own about 10 properties. But in the last few years, I have bought and sold several properties. So I think overall, I'm probably a little over 20 properties. And
Hmm.
this is in between. When I first started, it was more on the fix and flip side.
Hmm.
And because I thought, fix and flipping was never going to build wealth for me, that I started to buy and hold properties and using different strategies like BRRRR and
Yeah.
trying to gain additional revenue through long-term, mid-term, and short-term um,
Great.
rentals.
So I have a question for you. When did you start do your first flip?
So I did my first flip back in 2018.
All right. So you've been in
Um,
this market for a while. There's a lot of terms that you threw out that I think were new to me because I was new in the real estate space. I didn't even think it was something that I would ever do. It was just kind of like a dream. And you said buy and hold, and I actually had no idea what buy and hold meant. So I don't know if you probably can explain it better than I can.
yeah, sure. Buy and hold. Well, so when I first started, I did buy and hold. Actually, I bought and held a condo out of Jersey City. At that time, I was an out of state investor, and I continue to be an out of state investor, except I was international rather than domestic US.
Mhm.
And I bought this condo in an old pencil factory. So if you think about the yellow pencil, the Ticonderogas, that's
Yeah.
where I lived. I lived in this factory that got converted into a condo. And I
Mhm.
bought it right at the bottom of the market, which
Mhm.
I had like no idea, right? Like this is me just starting and everyone's talking about real estate and I wanted to buy something and it was kind of the right time I felt. I had some money because I was single, no family. I was making decent amount on Wall Street. And so I bought this condo for about $400,000. And I was still living in Singapore, so I had rented out. And then when I moved back, the company actually gave me a bonus. And so I ended up using that bonus to renovate my condo.
Mhm.
And then I think about 2 years after that, I ended up selling it and I
Mhm.
sold it for double the price and I paid zero tax on it. And, that really piqued my interest, right? Oh my God, I made all this money and I didn't have to pay a dime in taxes.
Yeah.
Awesome. How do I start it? So
Yeah. So
by the time, yeah, by the time 2018 hit, I took some masterminds and everybody was talking about HGTV and flipping. So I ended
Mhm.
up just going into flipping first.
Gotcha.
And buy and hold is basically where you buy and hold the property and you rent it out. And then
Mhm.
flipping is where you buy, you renovate, and then you sell it pretty much
Right.
within 6 months to 12 months period.
Gotcha. And then another acronym that you threw out there was BIRD. So also, would you mind
Mhm.
explaining that too?
Yeah, great questions, Diana. So BRRRR basically stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Okay.
I'm always, I have to think about that one. So basically, you're using your capital to buy and renovate it. And then once you can rent it after the renovation, then you would refi it and refinance all your capital out so that you can use that same amount of money to buy additional property. And you can
Mhm.
continue to do this over and over again with the same capital to scale your business.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that we could probably spend down the line a whole episode just on Burr, I'm sure.
For
But I think
sure.
that's good. Yeah, I think to start, like everybody knows what fix and flip is because of HGTV, but like the whole buy and hold and the Burr and then all these like different investment things that are out there now, it's like I think people are starting to get really interested in the real estate market, especially recently with, knowing that the values have gone up so much.
Yep.
I think the other thing I wanted to ask you too is like I know you own different Airbnbs or short-term rentals, and you just launched one, right? In where is that again?
Yes.
In Smoky Mountains?
Smoky National. Mhm.
That's cool, so cool. And what made you get into that space?
Oh my goodness. So, when I was investing in my long term rental, I was, I bought this duplex and it had more expenses than revenue. And I was trying to
Mhm.
think of ways to either reduce my expenses or increase the income. And this duplex just so happened to sit in a smaller neighborhood of Hershey Park. So if you think
Mhm.
about the Hershey chocolate, that's the area where Hershey came from. So Hershey itself doesn't really allow Airbnbs or short term rentals. But within this little pocket, we just so happened to be able to do it and get a license for it. So what we did was we converted our long-term rental into a short-term rental.
Mhm.
We were a little bit nervous, but
Yeah.
eventually when we started getting these bookings, we were just so amazed on the amount of revenue that we generated
Mhm.
from pivoting from this long-term investment into now a short-term rental investment.
Right.
So just looking at the numbers, so we were only making about I think $24,000 a year as a long-term investment or long-term rental. And then when we pivoted into a short-term rental space, we actually made about $50,000 a year, if not more.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's so important because when I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts and like trying to just absorb as much information as possible. And one of the things they always say is like that you have to make sure when you're buying something to analyze the deal, but always continue to reanalyze it because what you said, you start out as a long-term rental and then you change it to a short-term rental and actually we're more profitable doing that. And sometimes it might work the other way too. So I think that's really good. Like you
Yeah,
just your wealth of knowledge.
I mean, all of these knowledge comes from experience, right? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you actually are in the midst of it.
Hmm.
And I've definitely made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of money, but I also lost a bit of money when I first started.
Hmm.
But I've definitely learned a lot during my journey. Of
Yeah.
I guess if you count my condo, I've been in this space for over 10 years now.
Yeah. And you've been in space for over 10 years, and I just bought my first rental property this year. So it's kind of like I'm at the beginning of the journey, a little further ahead. But hopefully one day that'll be, 10 years, hopefully sooner than 10 years, that I'll be where you are and owning a few different
Yes,
properties. Yeah. But it's just,
absolutely.
I just got started a little bit later, and then I think, like looking back, I wish I had known the things that I do. I mean, doesn't everybody, but I wish I had known the things I do now because I would have done things differently, when I was single and I
Well,
didn't
how do
have
you
any
feel about
kids.
it now?
How do
How
I
do
feel
you feel
about
about, investing in your first property?
it's nerve-wracking, right? Because I went from, I don't know, because it really, it's a big investment, and it's not something that I ever did. And I do suffer from analysis paralysis. I think of everything that can go wrong instead of like what can go right. So it was a risk. But, after talking to you and people who have actually been in this space and have done the thing that I want to do, I stopped listening to the naysayers. There's so many people out there who's like, oh, why would you want to do that? People are going to destroy your house. But then, like, there's people like you who are like, I've done this. Why wouldn't you want to make all this money? So I'm just
Right.
excited. We didn't launch it yet, but we're getting there. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Good.
excited.
I'm so excited for you. It's going
Thank
to be
you.
amazing. And if anybody is going to, is it Cape May?
We bought a house outside of Cape May. It's in the villas. It's by the bayside. So it's like a
Okay.
walking distance to the bay. Yeah, it's a little piece, but it's a start.
Well, if anyone is going, then, book Diana's property. And if
Absolutely.
anyone's going to the smoke, let me know.
Yeah, I think so. We'll have to put like, a little subscriber discount or something. But
Yeah,
it's fun.
absolutely.
Yeah, like book direct, right? I mean, that's like a
Mhm.
whole nother thing too, where it's just like, okay, now how do you find the property? What do you do when you have it? Again, and here I'm in my analysis paralysis mode again because I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
now what do I do next?
What if no one books it? What if I can't make the money that I projected to make? I mean, there's just
Right.
a million things, right? That you can fear that it will go wrong. But if you don't do it, you'll never get it started.
Exactly. You're ready to fail. Yeah. You never know unless you try, right? So I'm trying this and I'm really hopeful and I'm that it'll succeed. But I think like, for people who are listening, if you're interested in the Airbnb like space or investment properties or buy and hold, those are all topics that we plan on covering throughout our future episodes. But if there's any questions, like definitely send Lila or myself a little message and we can maybe cover it in the next episode. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't even think I stated this, but I am a licensed agent in Colorado in the Denver metro area. So I cover all of Denver MSA. So if anybody is looking to buy, sell, or invest in Denver, Colorado, or even if you're looking to invest out of state, I mean, I
Mhm.
invest in 5 different states. So I'm more than
Oh yeah.
happy to have a conversation and help you out.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that we're like across different time zones. So I'm in New
Yeah,
Jersey, Montgomery. Yeah, I'm in New Jersey and Montgomery by the Princeton area. Ironically, you found out Lila used to live in the town that I'm in, but we didn't know that, right? So, but we're still connected, and thank goodness for technology and these kind of virtual calls where we could see each other's face and have these conversations. So, thanks,
for
Lila.
sure. I love it. Thank you for
Cool.
putting this together, Diana.
Thank you. I'm excited to launch
Yay.
it.